The Tesla arson suspect faces federal charges. He better start doing some Kegels. He better start doing some Kegels and tighten up his butthole, because he's going to be in the federal pen for 20 years, giving BJs and butt hugs to folks. Anyways, the Las Vegas man was charged in the Molotov cocktail attack that torched several Teslas at the dealership last week. Paul Kim, 36-year-old, was arrested in Las Vegas by the Metropolitan Police Department.
An arrest in that Tesla dealership firebombing. Let's listen in.
Based on the updated evidence that we now have a better understanding, a more comprehensive understanding of what actually happened. And I'm going to provide some details as we walk through a little bit of a timeline on what occurred and then what we know about the suspect now. So we'll begin with just talking about how the suspect arrived. He arrived east of the location in a vehicle, showed up in a black sedan just parked east of the Tesla Collision Center. You can see on this video clip here, we highlighted the area because it's at the top of your screen, and you'll be able to see the arrival of the vehicle. You'll be able to see that the vehicle comes in, originally driving westbound where you can see the headlights, and then turns around where you can see the taillights, and he reverses back into where he parks.
Homie's driving a Hyundai
The
too.
suspect then proceeds on foot and approaches the corner of the building. As you've seen before, and as you've probably heard, and certainly as we're showing today, he attempted to mask his identity by wearing black attire, concealing his face, and wearing gloves. The suspect then began shooting the surveillance cameras with what appeared to be a rifle. You can see an image here of the suspect pointing the rifle towards a camera. At least 2 surveillance cameras were damaged by gunfire. And then upon shooting the cameras, the suspect proceeded to the front doors of the Tesla, and he began spray painting the words "resist" across the doors. I'll let this video play because you'll get a better shot of the suspect. You can see his description as he goes across the clear doors there, committing his act of crime. Once he finishes spray painting the words "resist" on the doors, he then approaches multiple Tesla vehicles that were parked in the front of the center. He proceeded to shoot into each vehicle and used a Molotov cocktail to set the vehicles on fire. We'll play a few video clips here to kind of show you his behavior. You can see him right there in the dark clothing. He casually walks over to his first vehicle that's targeted. He will soon put down his backpack onto the ground. And then he transitions to the firearm. And you'll see him shoot into the vehicle. Once he shoots into the vehicle, he ends up going back from the vehicle to the bag and then back to the car, presumably picking up his item that he used to be able to firebomb the vehicle. We believe that was a Molotov cocktail. And you'll see in a moment here, the vehicle will ignite and ultimately fully engulf, causing severe damage. The suspect then continues on to a second vehicle, and you can see here he's on to the second target. He'll do very similar behavior where he shoots into the vehicle, he goes into the backpack, retrieves an item, and ultimately you'll notice here that he ends up getting the second vehicle on fire as well.
Dummy.
From there, he then proceeds to his third vehicle, repeats the same type of activity. One of the incendiary devices he was not able to ignite, which is one of the devices that we were able to recover. But ultimately, 5 vehicles were damaged, to include 3 of which were fully destroyed. You can see images of the vehicles here. And you'll see here a drone video. This is from our Skydio drone, being able to provide an overview of the damage as well. After this, the suspect then proceeds and flees east, gets in his vehicle, and leaves the area. As I mentioned earlier, this case has been worked around the clock, and Sheriff McMahill and Special Agent in Charge Spencer Evans have made it a top priority for our organization and put a tremendous amount of workforce behind it to make sure that this was dealt with in a quick manner. Because of that, in 8 days around the clock with our teams, we were able to identify the suspect's vehicle as a black Hyundai Elantra.
Dummy. Don't you know Hyundai just invested into the United States?
You'll see a photo here. But what's important to point out here is that this was achieved through an exhaustive review of surveillance material, analytical data, and a canvas of over 700 locations across the valley.
They got your
Ultimately
butt,
allowing us to
dude.
piece together critical
So does
evidence
Hugo.
with speed and precision. You can see on this image here, this is just one example of many where we're using flock technologies to be able to identify the type of vehicle, including very specific features of the vehicle. Social media group, as well as social media groups called Revolutionary Communists International, Hidden Palestine, Palestine Action, and a variety of other social media groups. That is part of our investigation, is to dig further into it and to be able to determine additional motive and other potential concerns.
They brainwashed this dude. He thought he was cultivating a revolution. Meanwhile, he's going to get 20 years in the federal pen. This dude is what, 30 something years old? He's not going to get out till he's 50 something years old. Dude was claiming his car was stolen at the crime. He's not going to get out till 50 something years old. He thought he was going to get away with this, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's going to remember you, man. You did this for what? For what? You really thought this dude is an idiot. He's a dummy. Absolutely. You thought that you were going to go to a Tesla dealership, Tesla, a data company that just happens to manufacture vehicles, and get away with this. He's an idiot. Idiot. Stupid.
At this point in time, the suspect was placed immediately on 24/7 surveillance by our specialized units to ensure public safety and preserve evidence. Additional evidence was collected as we continued our investigation, and the suspect was ultimately arrested yesterday evening. A search warrant was then obtained and served by the LVMPD SWAT team, which is by far one of the best, if not the best SWAT teams in the country. They were able to do that safely and quickly. And as a part of their operation, we were able to conduct searches of 2 vehicles linked to the suspect's apartment, and we were also able to collect a buccal swab for DNA to be able to compare that to the DNA that we recovered from the scene. Our searches revealed numerous items of interest to include multiple rifles, a shotgun, a handgun, and miscellaneous gun parts. You can see a photo to my left of some of the items that were recovered. We also were able to recover ammunition in multiple calibers to include the caliber that was used in the crime. We also recovered numerous electronic devices, which our partners at the FBI are quickly analyzing. We also recovered a black gun belt with a pouch that had pink paint residue on it. You can see a photo of that to my left, as well as a black backpack with pink paint, face masks, and other articles of clothing that are consistent with the suspect's description.
This dude's a dummy.
We also recovered other key pieces of evidence that we're still evaluating at this time that do connect the suspect to this attack.
He's a dummy. Resist. Brainwashed, thought he could go into this dealership, cause all this type of harm, all this other stuff. Nobody's going to, I don't know if he was doing this so he can be remembered, but nobody's going to remember you, bro. You're going to go to jail. The only person that's going to remember you is that dude that slammed you against the wall and did your booty dirty. That's just what it is. Because homie looks like he takes it.